Hey Andy, what's going on?
Not much. I've missed you, man. How you doing?
It's been a while.
Are you
Yeah,
drinking tea right now?
I am.
Is that like a sleepy time tea or a regular tea or
Yeah,
what?
it's like a ginger turmeric tea.
So I'm so uneducated about teas. My wife and daughter drink teas frequently, and they keep buying different like tea accessories, different ways to make tea. I'm not trying to give it a hard time. Like I have three or four different ways to make coffee, so I guess it's the same thing. But I
Yeah,
wasn't aware that there are certain like nighttime teas. And this
yeah.
was about a year ago, but one night I wasn't really tired and I was like, like they usually have tea, so I just went over and found a tea thing in there and I made some tea. And it turned out I made like a green tea that had like energy in it. And I was
Mm-hmm.
up until like 3 in the morning. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And the next day, Stephanie saw the like the wrapper from the tea I had used, and she was like, "You didn't drink
Yeah.
this last night, did you?" Yep, I did. So
Huh.
anyhow, how
Yeah, don't drink green tea at night. You learned a lesson.
I learned. But I got a little list of fun things that have happened in the last week. Is there anything happening in the tonight? Real quick, we're gonna branch out because I've got a new thing that I'm gonna try in, but I'm paying attention to world politics right now. Like,
Yeah. Oh, the world's
dude,
fucking crazy right now.
dude, our news here, like, we talk about what's happening in America and America only. And I was listening to a comedian, I think it was Jimmy Carr, who's British, and he was making that point that, like, everywhere else in the world, people are very aware of what's going on in the world. But in America, like, we don't care. Like, we're only listening to what's going on here. Like, even if you tried to show us what's happening in Europe, like, we don't really care.
It's
Um,
a little ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, so there is a lot happening in the world we're going to cover tonight. But kind of the first thing, and I know that there's probably at least one or two people that couldn't wait to hear us have to talk. They're begging us to say this, and they want to hear us talk about it. But Hunter Biden, he got pardoned by Joe Biden.
Oh,
The right is very upset. Have you seen anything about this?
yeah. Yeah. And it's stupid. It's the stupidest thing in the world. Hunter Biden, first of all, Hunter Biden committed two crimes that nobody ever gets arrested for.
Yeah, he
And second of all, like the president has the power to pardon people. Trump pardoned basically half of his administration last time. He par he's going to pardon all the Jan 6 people. Like, why are they so up in arms
so
that Biden is pardoning his own son?
here's the thing: is where Joe went wrong. Joe's mistake is he should have never said no. I'm not going to pardon Hunter.
Yeah,
He shouldn't have said
yeah,
that. What he should have said was something very artfully crafted as like, right now I'm not even considering pardoning Hunter, but it's just something where you leave yourself wiggle room later. So that was his mistake. He should have never said that.
yeah,
Um,
totally.
in any other normal time, I would say, yeah, like, yeah, the president shouldn't lie to us. If they said they're not going to do it, they shouldn't do it. The only reason I don't really care about this is because it's like, hold on, wait. Trump doesn't have to play by the rules. Trump pardoned all kinds of people we're going to talk about in a minute. But
Roger
like
Stone.
Matt Flynn, Roger Stone, there was Steve Bannon, Dinesh D'Souza, who I can't wait to talk about. But he pardoned Dinesh D'Souza for it was he was a straw donor or whatever. It was basically an election violation. What is election campaign contribution
Oh,
violation? The thing that
okay.
they always complain about is it. But anyhow, the thing
Right.
is, Democrats hold their people to these weird standards and like rules, and Republicans are not playing by those rules. So
No.
I'm having a conundrum because there are people on the left that are saying, "Hey, Republicans aren't following the rules, so why are we trying to hold our people to that standard? Let's
Yeah.
just start breaking the rules too." And there's half of me that's like, that makes sense, but like the other half of me is like, no, the right thing is that both sides need to get back to following the norms. There's an ad on my
I would love it if both sides got back to following the rules, the norms, and like getting back to a coherent government.
yeah,
Like
I'd rather have
a
that.
government that we can actually trust is going to like get shit
Yeah.
done and not like play these stupid games with each other and the rest of the population and get back to that. But like if the Republicans aren't willing to do it, and I blame Mitch McConnell, he started this shit with the Supreme Court justices. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the first time I really saw it.
So, and you can argue all day about where it actually started. For me, it started in 2000, I think it was 2014, and Republicans got a majority in the House and the Senate, and Obama only had 2 years left. And they said openly, nothing gets passed in the next two
Yeah.
years, like nothing, including
Yeah.
confirmation of judges and all that. And that was when Obama then started doing a lot of executive orders, which I disagree with executive orders. Trump took it to a new level, but Obama started it. Obama
Yeah.
opened the can of worms that became Trump doing a lot of them. So, but for me, that was the moment
Well,
when
so wait, did Obama start or did the Republicans start it when they weren't going to pass any
so the Republicans
not
said
going to vote
nothing.
on any legislation?
Republicans said nothing gets passed, and in
Yeah.
response, Obama then said, "Okay, I'm going to do everything through executive order." Which executive order is kind of a—it's always been a gray area. Like, can he do it? Can he only do it in emergencies? And Obama said, "I'm just going to start doing it." And
Yeah.
Republicans threw a fit about it, but then when Trump got in there, he started doing. I remember like twice a week, Trump would sign these executive orders, and he'd hold up the deal at his desk, and
Yeah.
everybody would clap for it. And they mean very little. Like if you look back at the list of all the things Trump did in his first term, like 95% of them are executive orders. And like that's all well and good, but like the next president can come in and in day one just undo all of those. If you get
Yeah, but
something,
he has all that time to use those executive like if there's an executive order,
you
he
just
can fuck
use
some
it.
shit. He can like
Uh,
really mess something up with an executive order
100%. But
for that period of time, right?
my thing though, yeah, you're totally right. But my thing is like it should get passed by the House and then the Senate and then get passed by the president. And that's a true bill that gets passed. And the next president can't come in and just undo that. And that's how I wish more things, but 90% of what gets done by Trump, and then Biden did it too. Now Biden actually got like five or six really good things passed, which again I say Biden got it passed. Biden signed it. Smart people in the House and Senate worked together to craft a bill that both sides, and that's what I want to
Totally.
happen. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's
again,
what Biden came in as. He was like, I work on both sides of the aisle.
that's
Like
that's
he promised that and he kept that promise, right?
that is what sold me on Biden. And I told you that in 2019 when you said you because you weren't a Biden fan at all. And I said, of all these people up here, I think Biden is the one that's going to win, which it turned out to be right. But B, the reason I like Biden is because he's saying he wants to get us back to reaching across the aisle and working with their side. And he actually did that. And they passed several bills with bipartisan support. So I'm happy for
Yeah.
that. Um, the whole thing, the thing that's killing me right now is a lot of Republicans are like, oh, well, if Biden did it, it looks like Trump can just pardon people at random now. And it's like, well, he already did it the first time and he was
Yeah.
already going to do it this time. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it gives them cover. At this point, if Democrats bitch about anybody he pardons, they can now say, oh, but what about Hunter Biden? So, okay,
Yeah.
to me, it's not a big deal. And also, this is kind of an excuse, but I totally agree with it. He might not have had any intention to pardon his son, but the second that he nominates Kash Patel as the FBI director, and Kash has been openly saying there's a list of people he's going after, so Kash Patel being nominated for FBI director might have changed the circumstances a little bit. Where it's like, oh shit, like I need to pardon
Yeah.
my son now. Um,
Well, yeah, and I mean it's just a witch hunt. Hunter Biden has just been a witch hunt since the
you
very
sound like a
beginning.
Republican right now. It's amazing to
I
me.
know, I
Yeah,
know. Yeah. I'm
yeah.
gonna start saying radical left too.
The radical left, yeah. But real
Radical
quick,
left.
Dinesh D'Souza, one of the people he pardoned. Dinesh D'Souza is famous for being a kind of right wing guy on social media, but he also
Yeah.
is famous for making a movie. Do you know about the movie he made?
Something mules, 400
2000
mules or
Mules. It's
something.
it what
2000.
for the past like year, every person I've come in contact with that has said like, "Oh yeah, no, the 2020 election was definitely stolen, this and that." Like the first thing they go to is, "Have you seen 2000 Mules?" And they say it with such confidence. And
Debunked within the first week. They
me,
debunked that
me,
movie.
me and you have talked about it. That movie's been debunked through and through. But fascinating in the past 2 days. And what kills me is no Republican's going to see this. Okay, it really kills me. I hope that a Republican sees this and hears it. But Dinesh D'Souza got sued by one of the guys that they pointed out in the video and said he was a mule. He got sued. He's like, I was like bullshit, and all the cell phone tracking, geo tracking is 100% incorrect. He sued him. Apparently, it did not. I think they settled out of court. But Dinesh has a statement. If you go to his website right now, there's a statement on the front of Dinesh D'Souza's website where he apologizes and says that he was totally unaware, but all of the data that was in his movie was not true. It was just made up. It was a lie. He blame he blames it on a group called True the Vote, which True the Vote was the big group that was pushing the Democrats stole this. Um,
Uh-huh.
so he's throwing them under the bus. He's
So
saying
he's admitting that the entire thing is fake.
he said all of the cell phone data that was used, and that was like the main crux of his movie, it turns out was not accurate, was not corroborated. And
Let's
he's
pause
saying,
this. I gotta send this to a bunch of people real quick.
I'll find it. I'll find it and send it. I have about three people that I so badly wanted to send it to, but it's like, no, like I'm not going to be that guy. But I can't wait till the next time somebody brings that movie because again,
Jeez.
most Republicans will never see or hear this. But yeah, he flat out admitted that it turns out everything in that was a lie. It wasn't true, and I'm sure it was a settlement out of court. Now his statement starts off with like, I'm not saying this because of an NDA, and I'm not saying this because the court made me. I'm saying it because, and I think that's bullshit.
Oh,
But yeah, it's been a fun 2 days for me because everybody, including Ann Coulter is the worst of the worst, like troll of the right wing. But she doesn't like Trump and she shits on a lot of Trump people. So even though I hate her, like she makes me giggle quite a bit. And she was the first person, and she said every single person that told you that 2,000 Mules was real, like never listen to them again. She was just shitting all over him, and it made me so happy.
oh,
Um,
good.
I want to see if I can find his actual
Where is Ann
statement.
Coulter at? Is she on Fox?
She's nowhere now. She used to be on
Oh,
Fox. Um,
okay. Well, that's a
yeah,
bummer.
I wish I knew where his
Maybe, dude, I've been having prepper thoughts lately.
prepper thoughts. Okay, I mean,
Prepper. I'm going full. I'm going well the opposite of MAGA, but I've been thinking like on my runs and stuff like, oh, I need to like get like 30 days worth of food in in a tub and
yeah.
like have a go bag with a gun on in it and like if shit hits the fan, where am I gonna go? Do I go to Mexico? Do I go to Canada? What do I do?
Hey, real quick, I'm going to read. I don't know how long. I haven't read through the whole thing, but his statement. This is on the front page of his website. As those who have seen the film or read the book know, 2000 Mules was based on cell phone geolocation data collected and reviewed by True the Vote. An analysis of this data revealed highly suspicious patterns of certain cell phones, which were recorded in the location of 10 or more drop boxes. This data was the premise of the film. During the production of this film, as a supplement to the geolocation data, True the Vote. I'm gonna skip ahead here.
I mean, he's just admitting that the whole
Yeah.
movie was fake.
Okay, so third paragraph. We recently learned that the surveillance videos used in the film may not have actually been correlated with the geolocation data. I know that my film and my book create the impression that these individuals were mules that had been identified as suspected ballot harvesters based on their geotrack cell phone data. While all these individuals' images were blurred and unrecognizable, one of the individuals has since come forward and has initiated a lawsuit. I owe this individual, Mark Andrews, an apology. I now understand the surveillance video used in this film were characterized on the basis of inaccurate information provided to me and my team. If I had known that the videos were not linked to geolocation data, I would have clarified this and produced an edited version of the film. We operated in good faith with True the Vote, and then the rest of it is him throwing True the Vote under the bus. Anyhow,
Huh.
it turns out 2000 Mules was bullshit, as we've talked about. And it bothers me because even though he's admitted this now, you know that for the next couple of years, oh no, 2000 Mules is true. Like, look at this statement. No, it's fake news, man. Where'd you get They're
Yeah.
not going to believe it, but it made me really happy for a day or two. Prepper wise, though, I could talk about my joy for Dinesh D'Souza being exposed is great. But have you seen I'm gonna focus on three countries in the world right now where shit is going down. And
That's what
like
I'm saying. The world's
90
fucking
dude,
crazy right now.
I over the past couple of days I've been asking random people like, "Hey, do you know what's going on in the country of Georgia right now?" Or like, "Do you know what's going on in South Korea?" And like nobody knows what I'm talking about. Like we're
Yeah.
all oblivious. Let me ask you, do you know what's happening in South Korea right now?
Yeah. Well, it's not going on anymore, but
Right?
uh the is it a president, prime minister,
The
whatever,
president of South
whatever
Korea, yep.
president. Yeah, he declared martial law
Do you know
because of
why he declared
protesters
martial law?
against protesters.
No, against the government.
Wait, what? No,
Okay,
I heard. Go ahead.
so he got elected on like a less than 1 point margin. He has been unpopular ever since he got in. Now
Yep.
he is strongly backed by the U.S. He is like, you know how like we'll talk about it in a minute, but Russia like puts its puppets in charge of different countries over on like the former Soviet bloc. This
Yeah, we do it
guy,
all across the world.
you could easily say that this guy's the U.S. backed candidate. Like we like him,
Okay.
we wanted him in. He's been unpopular from the start. Inflation and everything that's going on all around the world is people are unhappy. Um, he lost in the first midterm. He lost so many seats to where he has like a super majority against him in their Congress. Okay. I don't know if it's the
Okay.
same, so I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. But he's like a Republican in Korea, which it might be totally backward, but he's like a Republican. The
No,
Democrat.
he's a libertarian, from what I understand. He's
Okay,
the
well,
equivalent of a libertarian in
okay,
America.
they in the news articles they were saying he was of the Republican. It's called the Dream Party, but it's the Republican Party. Anyhow, since since he lost all the power now, both houses underneath him have super majorities against him. They haven't been letting him get any of his shit passed. He's about to get impeached. He's been about to get impeached for a while, and they're cutting the budget of all the things that he wants to do. Like they're basically just railroading stuff through for him and like not letting him do the stuff he wants to do. Um, in a very American like move, he resorted to saying, clearly, these are enemies of the state. They're sympathetic to North Korea. North Korea has infiltrated our government and is trying to destroy our government from within. So he declared martial
Oh,
law, which basically,
the enemy from within? Did he?
like, it's very American. Um,
Holy shit.
and then so when he declared martial law, one of the things that does is that suspends all of their Congress, like House and Senate, whatever, like that just takes them out of the book. And now he has total power. And he did it saying that he had uncovered some kind of evidence that North Korea had infiltrated the government, and this opposition party that he doesn't like is basically under the control of North Korea and they're trying to destroy the country. Total bullshit. Like not so he
Yeah.
declared martial law and the people went nuts. They had like a reverse January 6th. The police and the protesters were trying to break into the Capitol to get the senators and congressmen back in there. And it only lasted for like 8 hours. And then he basically undid the martial law. He's probably going to get impeached now. But it was,
Well, he got, well, they voted. They voted on it. Like the
he,
rest of like their House and Senate
they,
and whatever
so
voted on it. And it was like 130 to 0,
190 to 0, and he said he didn't
190 to
care. At
0.
first, they voted to overrule it, and he said nope, and kicked him out, and said nope. It's a one man show now. I'm an autocracy, and like I said, the people wouldn't stand for that shit. So
Yeah. Good.
it seems like things have calmed down, but I'd say he's probably going to get impeached real soon. Um, Syria. Do you know what's going on in Syria right now?
They're going back to a civil war, right?
So the civil war never stopped. It's just kind of had a little lull. Um,
Yeah.
in like 2014, 15, like Assad is the president. I can't remember his full name. I'm just going to say Assad. But he's the president of Syria. They were about to lose to the rebels, and Russia and Iran came in like strong behind him. So in Syria is the most confusing place for me because basically the Assad regime with Russia and Iran's help, mainly Hezbollah, which Hezbollah is fighting, in the northern side of Israel right now, but Hezbollah helps over there. Now,
Okay.
the rebel groups, it's like three or four different rebel groups, and none of them like each other. So this is a terrible situation where if they do all win, there's immediately going to be a power struggle for what group wins. There's one group, the Kurds, I believe, that we back, and they're in the east side of the country. And then there's another group that used to be, it's like several people that used to be in Al Qaeda or ISIS, one or the other. And
Okay.
they're mad because they think ISIS isn't like fundamental enough, not crazy enough. And they're also attacking. So we're kind of on their side against Assad, but also
Okay. We're on
there's
the side of ISIS now.
it's everything's by religion over there, and it's not like Christian versus Jew. It's all these different sects of Islam, like the
Right.
Kurds versus the Shiites versus there's several of them. But what ended up happening just recently is the rebel groups all looked around and they said, "Oh shit." Russia is way distracted by what's going on in Ukraine. Like the only reason they got pushed back last time is because Russia helped, and Russia's got problems going on. They're also distracted
Yeah.
by what's going on in the country of Georgia, which we'll talk about next. But also, Iran, mainly Hezbollah, is also really fucked up right now because of what's going on in Israel, and Israel is destroying Hamas or Hezbollah.
Yeah.
So like they just kind of it's like they all looked around and they said, "Oh shit, like nobody's got Assad's back right now." And they all launched a counterattack, like kind of restarted the war, and nobody saw it coming. Even like apparently American intelligence had no clue this was on the horizon, which
Oh,
is scary because one of these groups we like back, and I'm sure we give them like weapons and stuff, and like they
yeah.
apparently they didn't tell us this was about to happen, but
Huh.
they retook the city of Aleppo. Um,
Okay.
the leader Assad immediately flew to Moscow, like, and people thought he was abandoning the country. It turns out it looks like Putin like summoned him to come and like explain what the hell's going on. What's going
Mm.
to most likely happen is Russia's going to put some might back in, some military might, and probably push them back again. But chaos in Syria again is
So
where we're
but
at.
that pulls troops out of Russia.
It does.
Yeah.
Out of Ukraine.
Out of Ukraine. Yeah.
So, but But again, this is one of those where it's like, oh shit, like the Assad regime might fall. Back in the day in Iraq, like we rightly thought that Saddam Hussein was a murderous dictator and blah blah and gassed his own people, which is the same thing that Assad has used chemical weapons on his own people. Terrible guy. Assad is not a good guy. But what we learned is there's a lot of different sects of Islam over there that all hate each other. And Saddam, whether you like the way he did it or not, was keeping all them in check. And as soon as Saddam left and we left, like all these groups sprung up. So like it's always there's always unintended consequences. And that's the thing with Syria is like as an American, you're tempted to root for like, yeah, like the Assad regime needs to fall. But like if it does, it's kind of chaos. Like that's a power vacuum that like ISIS or Al Qaeda or somebody could easily slide in and take over. So be careful what you wish for is the concept in Syria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So
You take one person out of power, somebody's got to fill that void, right?
and who's gonna is it gonna be somebody where is it gonna be the old out I can't remember the name of the group, but like I said, it was somebody who left Al Qaeda because he thought they were being pussies. Like they weren't being
Like,
tough enough.
why can't we all just fucking get along, Andy?
In this case, because of religion.
Well,
Yeah.
it's always religion. It's mostly religion.
I'm just saying in this
I mean,
case
it's
it's
religion
definitely
and Israel, it's religion. Russia's land, but
yeah. Russia's
yeah,
resources. I mean,
resources.
that's what that comes down to. But anyhow, the country now that we're talking about Russia, the country of Georgia. Do you know what's going on over there?
No, I don't. I haven't heard anything about Georgia.
So the country of Georgia is. I know I've told you this whole my spiel on it, but like it back in the 2000, it was 2000 through 2014 was when Putin decided to try to bring the old Soviet Union back together, and he invaded a
Yeah.
couple different countries. Some of them he invaded with military, and some of them he just like installed puppet leaders to like Belarus is a great example.
Mm,
Belarus, he was able to do it through basically getting his own puppet dictator in there, and now Belarus is totally like the bitch to Russia, like whatever Russia says they'll do.
mm,
Chechnya, he had to go in military style. He was they did some massacres in Chechnya, like it was bad stuff. The country of Georgia, they sent in their army, but they didn't take over the country. They kind of sent in their army, got some puppets in the government, and then pulled their army out. They did the same thing with Ukraine. What's happening in Georgia right now is exactly what happened with Ukraine in 2004 and 2014, where like they basically all the people are like, hey, being a part of the Soviet Union sucks. Like we have a chance to go be a part of the European Union and like make deals with the West, or we could still be under Putin's regime. And they don't want to do it. So they basically were set to elect a president that was going to be the anti-Putin president, much like Zelensky. They were going to elect their own Zelensky type figure who was not going to do everything Putin says. And apparently, I don't know anything about it, but the election that happened in October was like very clearly not fair and free at all. And the Putin puppet won with like 80% of the vote when like the whole country hates him. And there's been protests galore ever since. And Putin is pushing that guy, that the puppet, to like beat down the protest with an iron fist, like send in the military and this and that. And they did a little bit, and the people did not respond well to that. You'd be shocked, but they didn't like
Oh.
that. So protest is spreading. So now Russia is got Ukraine going on. Georgia's falling apart, and they got to put some attention over there. Go ahead.
Okay.
What are you looking at? You got
I'm looking at the map. I was figuring out exactly where Georgia was, but
gotcha. It's the old Soviet bloc over there.
yeah,
Um,
it's a tiny little country.
And then I don't know if you saw this, but Russia suspended. I don't remember what it's called exactly. They basically suspended trade of the ruble. The ruble, their dollar, has been falling like crazy for the past year, and it finally hit a point where nobody would do business with the ruble. So they suspended all trading, which means it can't fall anymore, but also you can't really use it. So their economy is about to crash. Georgia's going nuts. Syria's got problems, and Ukraine hopefully, I'm sure Putin is hoping that Trump shows up soon to bail him out of the Ukraine thing because things are not going well for Russia. It really bothers me because it's like, man, if we stay the course, like Russia can't keep doing this. Like
Yeah.
they're running out of money and resources fast, and Trump's going to come in and bail him out at the last minute. Now, I don't know if
How
you've
are we
seen.
going to bail Russia out? Are we going to give Russia weapons
No, we're going to
or
end the war in
troops?
Ukraine and give them the Donbass and I can't remember the other region. And that region is really rich in a lot of minerals, and so that's what
But how is Trump going to end this? That's the thing.
here.
Like Zelensky doesn't seem like he's going to give in.
So
We're going to stop giving him weapons, but
what's interesting is the Republican Party is pretty split on Ukraine. Like half of them are old school Republicans that don't like Russia and want to support Ukraine. They're mad because they think Biden should have given more weapons and more money and given them the go ahead to strike within Russia a long time ago. And then the other
Yeah.
half is totally against the war in Ukraine and wants to end it, and they don't like Zelensky. So it's a fractured party. What's interesting is a lot, and I think what's the word, wish casting, like they're trying to throw it out there to Trump, and but there've been a lot of Republicans that have been going on the air recently and saying Trump is going to end this in a day, and the way he's going to do it is he's going to look Putin in the eye and tell him, hey, we're about to, what we've spent so far, we're going to make it look like peanuts. We're going to totally support Ukraine. You might as well end this now because we're about to give them everything they want. That's what now if that's true, I'll be thrilled. I don't think
No,
it is, but
Trump is Putin's bitch.
yeah,
Trump is absolutely Putin's bitch. I mean, we saw this in when he went and visited him.
the Helsinki 2018 trip was very very tough to watch.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that's like maybe like just maybe. So
It'd be
I'm hoping.
nice.
Yeah.
It would be nice if you know, at least Russia gets put in its place by Ukraine, Georgia, and like throw in a couple of the Eastern Bloc European countries and maybe throw in Kazakhstan and Mongolia.
Dude, Borat's from Kazakhstan. Uh
Yeah.
well and I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I one thing I saw that I don't know how you would ever prove this, but there's a lot of people that are in like the tech world, I guess, that are claiming that Elon is censoring everything that's happening in Syria and Georgia on Twitter. 'Cause you don't see shit about that on there. And
Oh,
supposedly Elon and Putin are kind of in bed with each other. And
yeah.
it's funny because I after I saw somebody say that, I was like, oh yeah, shit, I'm on Twitter a lot, and I haven't seen anything about that. And I went and I tried to search it out, and like it's not a lot on there about it. So I don't
Well,
know if
and
you can
that's
prove it.
interesting because Elon is giving Ukraine like internet.
Starlink. He's been giving it to him for a while.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so like where's all that is that information going to Putin?
I don't
Are
know.
they
Yeah. It's weird.
yeah.
So I don't, like I said, it's just, I'm going to start. I need to figure out whether it's going to be like Sky News or BBC or somebody, but like I want to start paying attention an hour a day. Like what's going on in the rest of the world? Because once I started looking, it's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on out there that we're not talking about. And it's got all of it's got big consequences.
Well, you
So
got NPR in Oklahoma?
think so. I don't listen to NPR much.
They
I've
they
tried,
cover world news
I
too.
know. So I know several
Usually late at
people.
night, but
I've got this whole thing where like I like to think of myself as being like a more cultured man than I really am. Like I want to be this certain type of man that I'm not. And like every time somebody's like, "Yeah, listen to NPR," I'm like, "Oh, like I'm gonna listen to that too." And like I've tried to listen to NPR and I can't. I don't know what it is. I think it's the whole thing where like our news here keeps the news interesting, even though they're feeding
bright
us.
lights and
Yeah,
everybody's excited. Yeah, and they tell the news like Walter Cronkite did, like an
yeah.
actual
I've
journalist,
told
not
you
like
before, the reason the news stations do that isn't because it's some grand scheme to like, somehow keep us as sheep. No, they want ratings, and ratings are that's how you get ratings, is you make it the
hmm
Fox News model. It was when Fox News started doing it, everybody was like, what is this crap? This isn't news. And then they saw
Yeah.
how well it was working, and now MSNBC, CNN, they're all trying to follow the Fox News model. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, sex sells.
yeah. So anyhow, hey, we just got it running out of time.
So the world is falling apart, and yeah, it's crazy.
The world is falling apart, but now the U.S. economy is also something I'm very worried is falling apart. Have you seen any of the stuff? This bothers the shit out of me. I'm gonna back up here. I've been talking to people this whole last election cycle where they're like, people have tried to tell me like, well, all the big businesses they don't want Trump to get back in there because they know Trump's gonna this and that. And I'm like, big
No, they
business,
do.
like they're praying that Trump gets back in. Democrats hold them accountable. The Republic and so many people
Yeah.
have disagreed with me on that, but I don't know if you've seen already in response to the possible tariffs Trump's going to put in, several businesses are go ahead, they're preemptively raising their prices to get ahead of the
Yeah.
tariffs. So
Totally.
what's funny, the coffee shop that's by my house, I go there all the time. Great family runs that place. Love them to death. They are all Trump voters. I've talked and I've had great conversations with them. They're good people, but they are definitely MAGA. And I even told him about at one point. I was like, well, I was like, I honestly I think Kamala's plan is better for the economy, and he was shocked. He was like, what? Like, no way. And I was like, well, I was like, and I mentioned the tariffs, and he didn't know what I was talking about. And I ended up talking to them. 2 days ago, and he was shocked because the price of coffee beans has already gone up, even though the tariffs
Oh,
haven't, but it's gone up considerably. And where he buys his beans, he has a $2,000 a month credit limit. So he can buy the beans at the beginning of the month, use them all month, and he has to pay that bill by the end of the month. And
right.
$2,000 used to get him enough beans to get through the month. And now to order the same amount of beans, he has to put like 800 more dollars. He has to pay in cash on
Oh,
top of
almost
the
almost a 50%, like a 40% raise.
big time.
Or
And he's so
yeah.
upset and he was mad about it. And we ended up talking and I was like, yeah, I was like, well, the Trump tariffs obviously, are going to affect that. And then he was like, yeah, but this business is just, this business is just gouging me at this point. And I was like, yeah, like that's why the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPD, is very important to stop that from happening. And right now, Trump wants to take that away. And he goes, "Oh, well, they're not allowed in the Constitution." And I was like, "Ah!" Immediately, I was like, "You watched the Rogan episode with that Mark Andreessen guy? Like, I know you have. Like, I'm ready for this." So we had a long talk about that, and it was funny because at the end, he was like, "Well, why would Donald Trump want to take away an organization that's trying to protect consumers?" I was like, "Well, ask yourself that question. Like, that's a damn good
Yeah.
question. Like tariffs, they're raising prices. We're trying to take away the CFPB. Like, as a consumer, how do you feel about all this? What's happening so far?" And it was funny because for the first time, I don't think he's bailing on Trump at all, but you could see like wheels turning of like, oh, maybe everything he's doing isn't the best for me. I'm like, yeah, no, maybe the
Yeah.
tariffs are a bad idea. Maybe I don't know. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, and like, I mean, like targeted tariffs are a fine idea, but we don't go to a trade war with our closest neighbors, all of our allies, and the rest of the world. Like,
yeah,
we're going to get screwed in
which
this.
I need you to check with your dad and report back to me. But have you seen the thing where there's a steel company in Pennsylvania that was going to get there was going to be a merger between that and a Japanese steel company, which Japan's one of our allies. And
Hmm.
for whatever reason, the 95% of the workers of the steel union are in favor of this, and all the leadership is in favor of it. And Trump came out and said, "You even try that, and I'm going to stop it immediately." And he's not going to allow the sale of this. And apparently, this whole union was at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania, like the day
Yeah.
of the election, and they feel betrayed right now. And apparently, the leaders of this union have tried to reach out to Trump and get on the phone with him, and he's not calling them back or taking their calls. And they're trying to get him on the phone to explain why this merger would be good for their business. And like I said, he's not there to talk to him. I don't know anything about that. How I don't get that at all. So I'd love to hear your dad's take as a former steel
Oh,
worker.
yeah. I don't think my dad pays attention to any of that stuff.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read up on that because I just saw that that's a whole hubbub right now where the steel workers feel betrayed, and but I don't
I
get the
saw that.
merger. So, and real quick, I touched on it briefly, but have you seen, or I know you don't watch Rogan anymore, but have you heard anything about the billionaire he had on Mark Andreessen to talk about? Have you seen anything about that?
Yeah, and did you see that like somebody from Russia, was it Russia, offered to come on there, or was it Ukraine? Somebody from one of
So
those, and he's saying
Zelensky,
no.
Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, wanted to come on and basically tell Joe why several things Joe's saying about this is not correct. And Joe was like, "Yeah, he wanted to come on. Fuck him." And it's like, "Well, hold on. You're the guy that's willing to have a conversation. Like, why will?" And
Yeah.
that that bothers me. I'll just say he should have. He if he feels confident in what he thinks,
Yeah.
he should be willing to sit down with Zelensky and have a talk about it. And he
Zelensky's a
clearly
former comedian too.
Yep.
Like,
So I give Zelensky props for reaching out and saying, "Hey, Joe, let me come on and explain to you
yeah.
why what you're saying is not right." And I got to believe that Joe realizes facts aren't on his side, or else he would have taken him up on that. But he knows he's going to lose that one because he's dealing in a lot of inaccurate statements. Is the best way I'll put it. He's repeating a lot of things that don't hold up to any scrutiny. Is the best
Yeah,
way I can put it.
I'm starting to think that a lot of people are in Putin's pocket.
So I have I have a whole fun like conspiracy theory in my head about that. But if I'll just say this. First of all, there's a thing on Netflix called Turning Point, and there's like there's Turning Point, 9/11, and the War on Terror is one of them. But
Uh-huh.
one of them is Turning Point, uh, the atomic bomb in the Cold War, or something like that, or the Cold War and the bomb, or something along those lines. And
Okay.
it's a 6-part series that starts with World War II and how it ended, and takes you all the way from the Cold War to Ukraine, what's happening now. And it's fascinating. It's just fascinating to watch. But like Ukraine got really, or not Ukraine, Russia got really good in like the 90s and early 2000s at basically just infiltrating, Georgia, we talked about earlier, Belarus,
Yep.
and just slowly building public sentiment for whatever their view is on it
Yeah.
and getting people elected and then slowly taking over the government. And we know, America knows that Russia's gotten really good at this. And then you
Mm-hmm.
kind of look at, you're like, how is half of the Republican Party now pro Putin? And it's like,
Oh, Putin. It's
but at the
weird.
same time, why do we
Tucker
not?
Carlson went for a second time.
He he has every right to go report from wherever he wants to report
Sure,
from. But
sure.
I watched a 3 minute, it was like the 3 minute intro clip that he put online of, to get people to watch. And in it, he told about three or four inaccurate statements. I'm trying not to say lies, but and at one point he was like, American troops are actively bombing Russia. And I stop, hold on. American troop? What? And I got online, and basically people in Russia have said repeatedly for the past little bit that like Ukrainians aren't good enough, skilled enough to be hitting us with
Oh,
this precision, so it must be America doing it. That's the
oh,
so he's heard
interesting.
them say that and he's repeating it, but I'm just thinking that
And did you
I
see like Tim Pool and like Benny Johnson and there was a handful of guys like right wing
the
like
tenant media
in
guys.
yeah, they
Yeah, we
all
talked
got
about
like $100,000. Oh, we talked about okay.
we talked about that a couple that all broke like a month ago.
Oh
Um
my gosh.
Anyhow, but yeah, no, there's a thing. I'm trying not to be the conspiracy guy, but there's a thing where it's like, hey, how is half the Republican Party suddenly pro Putin? And then it's like, well, the answer seems obvious, but at the same time, I've thought about this. Like, if it was obvious, wouldn't our local media, like is CNN, whoever, be talking about that more? And they don't. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why is nobody else
Mm.
putting those dots together? So I honestly, the way I look at it is like, clearly I must be overdoing this. This can't be as simple as I think, because if so, everybody'd be talking about it, but nobody
Well,
really
there's
is.
an
So
Israel lobby. There's probably some kind of underground like Russian lobby
yeah,
too.
it's yeah. It
Yeah.
really and it's get they've gotten really good at, like, they got the influences on their side. They got people like Theo Von and Joe Rogan. They're like, yeah, why are we supporting Ukraine? And like it's smart. The way that and people get mad when you talk about the 2016 election and Russia influencing it. Russia ran a couple troll farms. Like, what they did was
Yep.
pretty simple, and it was really low cost for a very small dollar amount. They created a lot of chaos in America where people, I don't know if you saw, but people joke about this all the time. But like, they would start like Facebook groups and have an event like on one street corner for like a pro-life group, and then have an event like right across the street for a pro-choice group, and like set it up and trick people into coming at a place where these two groups are going to clash. And they did it for fun, and they did it well. I give Russia props. They
Yeah.
played American citizens like fiddles, but like they've only gotten better in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, look at what Trump's doing. He went hardcore social
Mhm.
media last time and he went hardcore
Yep,
YouTube this time, and it seems like Russia did the exact same thing.
exactly. So I don't it like I said, it's odd to me. The real quick, back to the Mark Andreessen and Joe Rogan thing, like that was I've watched a couple things since then where they've kind of talked about and fact checked what they said on there, but it was just funny because the guy was saying just flat out wrong shit. Like, the CFPB is debanking people. Like, they don't have the power to debank people at all. Like, that's not what they do. Like,
Yeah.
Wells Fargo, they made Wells Fargo pay like $3 billion in some antitrust thing because they were ripping off their clients, customers, or
Yep.
whatever. Like, that's what they do. They protect consumers from big businesses that rip them off. And
Yeah.
if you look, I think it's in the past, however many years they've taken in like 20 billion, not they've taken in, but they've gotten 20 billion for American people. So seems like a good group. And he's trying to say that it's Elizabeth Warren running it, which it's not. Um, and that, all they do is, and he said that they debank people for political speech. And it's like, all right, who? Name
Yeah.
one person. Like, this hasn't happened. Banks debank people, and the phrase that they used is it's for politically exposed people. And like, I basically watched a thing where they gave the definition of what banks consider a politically exposed person, and it's a foreign person who has
Yeah.
shady money coming in and out, and that's who they then banks sever their ties because they don't want the IRS or the government raiding their shit because they're in bed with this person that appears to be doing something completely illegal. Um,
Totally.
but that was one of those where I went and watched that episode because I'd heard enough people talking about it. So I was like, all right, I got to watch Rogan and this billionaire. And like, Rogan just did his thing where he was like, really interesting. Like, is that happening? Oh, wow. And it's like, Joe, like, a lot of what he's saying seems fantastical. Like, you don't want to
Yeah.
push back, or like, remember back in the day when he'd be like, Jamie, pull that up. No, none
Yeah.
of that. No fact checking.
None
Just
of
let
that.
this guy come in and talk. And it's interesting because we have a situation where our country is pretty much going to be run by a handful of billionaires now. Like, we have Trump at the helm,
Yeah.
Elon, Peter Thiel, this Mark Andreessen guy, and like, there is a lot of people out there that really, really believe that these billionaires are putting aside their businesses and trying to help the average American. And I'm like, is that
No,
the case,
it's a
or are they
class
gonna
war. It's a class war right now. It's going
they're
to be a
gonna do?
class warfare. Then they're going to win. I mean,
Oh, they've
we
already
don't.
won. Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Okay.
the wealth gap where the super rich are going to get a lot richer. The greatest they're saying it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth ever in the next 4 years. But clearly, Trump is looking to privatize. It's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, or maybe I have those backwards, whatever it is. But it's the two big mortgage giants. They control like 80% of the mortgages in America, and he wants to
Yeah.
privatize those. And if he does that, that'll be them being able to set the rates and fuck people over. And it's like, oh, so many that I'm jumping all around, but did you see where this was 5 days ago or so, where he put out a statement or a tweet or a truth or whatever it was, where he's saying he was going to level a 25% tariff on all goods coming from Mexico and Canada unless they immediately close the border and stop the trade of fentanyl, blah blah blah. Did you see all that?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
25 to Canada, 25 to Mexico, and 50 to China.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's great is the Mexican president apparently set up a phone call with Trump for like the next morning. And she came out with a statement that night where she basically schooled Donald Trump on like the real situation. And she was like, yeah, no, we've been working on this for the past couple of years. Like we've gotten border crossings to an all-time low. 80% of the fentanyl that comes into America comes in through legal ports of entry. Of that 80%, 95% of it comes in from American citizens coming through those points. Like she just laid it all out there. The next day, Trump has a call with her and instantly comes out afterward. He's like, I just got off the phone with the Mexican president and she has agreed to do all the things I demanded. And she came out and was like, no. Like she immediately was like, no, that's not how that conversation went. Like I explained to him what's going on. And it's funny because immediately Republicans started declaring victory. They're like, look, he's not even in office and he's already got Mexico to agree to his demands. And the Mexican president is very clearly online saying, no, that is not how it went. But that's so Trump, where he like created a problem and
Oh
then
yeah.
got a fix to the problem he created and then took credit for fixing the problem that wasn't a nothing's
Yeah.
going to change with Mexico right now, but he's claiming that he's got them to seal the border, which is hysterical. Canada, I don't like
Mexico's
this.
paying for the wall, dude.
Dude, I don't like this, but Canada has the right idea. I think that all the European countries and all of our allies, they all learned last time because they all tried to like stand up to Trump for the first 2 years. And then it was Emmanuel Macron, the president of French or France. He was the first person to try a different tactic. Don't stand up to Trump, kiss his ass. Make him like tell him you like him and get him to like you, and then he'll do
Oh yeah.
whatever. And Macron did that. Macron invited him to France, did a parade for him with military victories or military tanks and stuff. And like Trump came back and was like, "Oh, me and Macron are best friends," and like was all happy about it. And Trudeau, his thing was he said, "Okay, I'll eat crow. Let's do this." And he flew down to Mar-a-Lago and had dinner with Trump and talked to him. And then at one point, and this is comical. There's some things Trump does that are
Oh yeah.
comical, but Trudeau said, if you put these tariffs on, it's going to wreck your economy and my economy. There's no need to do a trade war. And Trump told them, well, if you're worried about your economy, why don't you guys just become our 51st state and you can be the governor? That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. But Trudeau went out there and just kissed his ass. And now it looks like we've escaped the tariffs with Canada and Mexico. One of them stood up to him, one of them kissed his ass. I think Trudeau's on the right track. I think all the European leaders just need to just eat
Yeah.
crow and just kiss Trump's ass for 4 years, and that's what it's going to take.
It's
Everybody
such a
knows
pain in the ass.
he says it openly. I like people that like me. Okay, that's all. He
Yeah.
wants you to talk about
Yeah.
how good he is. Just do it.
Yeah. Nobody's really figured out how to navigate Trump.
I think
Like
Macron did.
Macron has, but like,
Yeah.
did he really, or did he just like kiss his ass to get him off his back?
I'm
Like,
just saying the last 2 years, us and France had a pretty good thing going. Like the communication was great. There was no hostility. Like,
yeah.
and it was all because
Well,
Macron. Yeah.
I mean, that's the way it should be, and that's the way it's kind of always been. Like, Canada and the United States have always been buddies and partners, and yeah, it's the way it should be.
It's
Like,
funny. The other funny thing, I don't know if you saw, but like the next day after Trudeau left Mar-a-Lago, Trump reposted a picture of him standing in like some snowy mountains with a Canadian flag planted, and it was him standing there. And
yeah.
basically, the joke was that he was going to take over Canada. And what's funny is that I guess a lot of people don't know this, but that
Oh,
picture
there's
was of
already
the
a map of what it would
well,
look like of the United
but did you
States.
Did you see the picture of Trump standing there with the one I'm talking about?
I
Like
haven't
on
seen
top
that
of a
photo.
mountain?
I heard
The-
about it, but I didn't see it.
do you know what the Matterhorn is?
Yeah, yeah.
The Matterhorn's in Switzerland. It's a very famous top of a mountain. It was a picture of that, and like I would like when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this dumbass posted a picture of Switzerland with a Canadian flag," and then but then it's funny because it's like 90% of people didn't even notice that, and that just scares me for the lack of intelligence of Americans. But like, whatever, it's cool. Like we're
We're
yeah,
living in crazy times. So
yeah.
going back to wealth inequality, did I show you this video of wealth inequality?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm gonna share this. We don't really need sound. I think we can talk
Let me see here.
through it.
All right, get it going.
You can see it.
Yep,
So
we can't watch all 6 minutes of this video.
yeah, we'll skip through. But it shows this is what America thinks the distribution is. 20% middle class, 20% top class.
Okay,
The ideal distribution would be, a lot less.
yeah, it's gonna be sad when I see what it really is.
Oh, and then here's what it really, oh God. This video just gets worse and worse and sad.
Yeah,
Here's the reality. Here we go.
God, that hurts
Yeah,
so bad.
isn't that is insane. The the middle class is basically in the 1%, if
I've t
not less. Oh, here we go. Top 1%. Oh, look at that. The top 1% is is almost like 30% of the money.
that's Elon and Peter Thiel and Jeff Bezos and those guys that are now running the government. So
Yep. And then it just okay, so this one's kind of good too. Let's see. So it's dividing people. Okay. Socialism. 90% of Americans choose as ideal, which is like a nice even curve, right? This
mhm.
is the ideal, the ideal situation. This is what what America thinks the distribution is,
Okay,
which is like a good solid
this,
middle class, and then
this one's gonna hurt.
the rich is like 50% of the country almost. Um, and then the
Oh God,
actual is,
yeah,
yeah,
it hurts.
dude, this is insanity. And then it goes on to the 1%. And they
God, and
dude, they even
what's
had to like cut off a piece and add it to
what's funny
to
is
the
the
next
people
part.
all the way over there on the left, where the little blue people with no money are. Those
Yeah.
are the people that are the loudest. That are like, "Stop taxing the billionaires," and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Look how much money they have. What do you mean? Like those people are fighting very hard to make sure that we don't overtax the rich, and they have. It doesn't.
So here it is. The top 1% has 40% of the wealth in America.
Yep.
That
But
is
if you
fucking
suggest that
wild.
maybe those people should pay more taxes, you'll get fucking yelled at by
Yeah.
Republicans. I don't know.
Yeah, and all the Republicans are in that middle to low class.
Not all of them,
But
but like a strong part of the MAGA base is where I'm at, all the way over on the left side of that chart.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they don't realize it though. Like we both have a mutual friend that was in our same high school that I remember one time he was like, I'm tired of all these people taking advantage of the Simpson and I had or the system. And I had to stop him. And I was like, dude, you've been on unemployment like 6 times in the last 4 or 5 years.
I know
Like,
who you're talking about.
yeah, it's like you're clearly taking advantage of the system and you're bitching about all these people taking advantage of the system. Like, let's get real here, man. Is it, does his name start with an A?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Making sure we're
All
talking about the same
right.
guy.
There's a couple that I could think of.
Hmm.
Um, well, I remember talking to one guy and he was like, all these motherfucking people on unemployment. And I was like, aren't you on unemployment?
I remember that.
Yeah, he got so fucking mad.
He got very, I think he left. Like, he left football Sunday. It's like, I'm not fucking putting up with this shit. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
dude, you're living off government disability. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, Anyhow, it's a good
I
thing
think
the government was
he's
there. Which,
I
hold
think
on,
he's
real
switched
quick.
it.
I totally forgot. I want to say this real quick. A person at Thanksgiving that is in my family that voted for Trump, right after the election, they had said, like, well, I just hope he doesn't do anything to like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. Like, because I guess he'd never heard that till like right after the election. He heard that was a possibility. And then I saw that like this week, Elon and Vivek and a couple other people are like hardcore proposing cuts to all that. And it was funny because I saw him at Thanksgiving. I didn't even bring it up. He brought it up and he goes, man, he goes, I don't know if you've been seeing, but they're looks like they're going to be playing with Social Security and Medicare and all that. And I was like, yeah, like it's been obvious. You
Yeah.
didn't believe me. I don't know what to tell you. Like I tried to tell you this over the summer and you didn't want to hear it. So don't. I'm sorry that you might lose some of your income. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Elon and Vivek want to cut like 50% of government spending, right?
Yes.
And so 50% of government spending is the military budget. The
Hmm.
other 50 is things that help everybody else.
Yeah.
And Elon gets a lot of money from military spending. So do you think he's going to cut any of that?
No.
No.
So here's the thing is when Republicans say they want to cut spending to balance the budget, like they are looking specifically at Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, programs like Head Start and stuff like, stuff that are aimed at the lower class people. Like that,
Right.
it's called the social safety net is what it's all collectively known as. And
Yeah.
like that's the first place they look to cut, food stamps, stuff like that. And like I'll be the first to tell you, I worked retail in a convenience store for a number of years. And there are a lot of people that have food stamps that are like driving a new Camaro and like
Hmm.
the
Oh,
stereotypical like got some bling and this and that, and they come in and use their food stamp card. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how are you driving that car? So a lot of those programs could use some reform. Like, I very much believe that we should track more heavily track. Like, if you're on, here's what this is the Republican side of me, but a long time ago, someone 15 years ago, somebody suggested like if you're on food stamps, you should have to pass a drug test to prove that you're not on drugs. Because if you have money for drugs, you don't need food stamps. And Democrats threw a fit about that, and they are so mad. And I'm like, no, if that's my tax money, I have to pass the drug test to work a job. You should have to pass the drug test to get part of my tax dollars. So like I'm leaning Republican on that all the way. But I don't think we should get rid of it. I think we should clean it up. We should get rid of fraud and waste. I'm all cool with that. That's not what they're going to do though. Like that's what
yeah.
they say is they say we're
Or
going to
or we
okay.
could tax the rich more.
The only way, and Elon and all those guys do have a great point. What is the main reason that I voted Republican most of my life? What I've told you this a million
To
times.
balance the budget.
Balance the budget and get the deficit down. I'm
Yeah,
huge on that.
but
Okay, but here's the
a
deal.
balanced budget isn't actually that good for our country, though. Like, if we have debt, like this was explained to me that like a growing country needs to accumulate debt, right?
Not
And
$36 trillion.
it's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we
I
have to
agree.
pay down what we have right now. Like a third of our spending every year goes to interest on our debt. Like
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. Okay, but I've said this forever. You can't just cut spending your way out. 36 trillion is too big a number. You have to cut spending and start taxing the super wealthy more. That's the only way you really make a dent in it. They're not going to tax the wealthy, so they're just going to, and they're also not going to cut military budgets. Bernie Sanders jumped in. I think Elon had
Oh
tweeted
yeah.
something, and Bernie jumped in and was like, absolutely right, blah blah. And Bernie will cut military spending in a heartbeat.
Did you
Republicans will not.
did you see the right like was like, "Oh, Bernie went MAGA." Like they're
That's
like
Bernie's
super
been saying that
excited about
for
it.
Bernie's been saying that the whole industrial military complex was a Democrat thing for years, and
Yeah.
now the Republicans are like, we got to stop the industrial military. And it's funny because you see some Democrats going, we have to disagree with them. Like, no, support the industrial military complex, and it's like, no, like they're
No.
finally agreeing. Like
Yes.
take the
Agreed.
win, just
Take
take
it.
the
Yes.
win, and
Yeah.
now they're coming out and defending it, and it's like
Why wouldn't
that's
they just say we've been saying that for years? Like let's
why wouldn't they? I don't know because they're instinctively trained that if Trump says it, they disagree, and that's a
yeah.
problem the left has hardcore.
No, they need to
So
find stuff where they can agree with Trump on, like cutting military spending and like push it through. That I think that's what Bernie Sanders is doing. He's like, yes, let's cut some spending and let's start with the military because we spend this amount of money and the military, like the Pentagon has no accountability for where their money is going.
that's
Um, let's get this going, like and
that's a
support
big
it.
debate right now. Behind closed doors, there's whispers of it. That's a big debate on the left right now. Is RFK wants to do some left leaning shit. Trump wants to do some shit that we've been talking about forever, like cutting military spending. Like, do we work with him on those and just take the win?
Yes.
Or the other side of that thinking is the way that a Democrat wins in 2028 is we have to make sure that Trump has an awful presidency and we pull a Republican basically. We don't let anything get passed. We don't agree to shit. Like we try to make this the worst 4 years where nothing gets done and he gets impeached twice but never actually removed. So that's the battle they have is do they do it that they did the first time and harass him the whole time, or do they just take the wins where they can get it? But if they do that, then Trump is going to have some things to point at that he achieved, and a Republican could more easily win in 2028. I'm not saying which way I agree. I'm just saying that's the two sides of that's what
So
they have to figure
we
out.
light the country on fire just so that we
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, there's going to be a lot of fires because Trump has already said he wants to cut like the fire departments in California and Colorado and all
but he
these
wants to
places
cut
where like
he wants
it,
to cut federal funding for fighting wildfires and all that
yeah.
because they don't rake their leaves in their national forests. That's
Yeah.
that's funny.
We got to
Uh,
rake the forest floors, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's a thing, but it's like that's a lot of forest to rake. We're
yeah,
gonna need like all 3 million Americans, all hands on deck,
yeah. There's
raking the
there's
leaves.
330 million Americans, so not 3 million. Last thing, have you seen? This is last thing I have on my agenda. Have you seen what's going on with Austin, Texas? I know you're a former resident of Austin.
Yeah,
Have you
I have
seen anything?
not.
Okay. I don't know what this guy's title is, but his name is Briscoe Kane. And that seems like a guy out of the Dukes of Hazzard. Every time I see his
Briscoe.
name pop up, he's a Republican. He was fighting very hard to protect Ken Paxton, who's the attorney general, who by all accounts is corrupt as hell. And he almost got
Mhm.
impeached, but he survived the impeachment trial. And Briscoe Kane is a staunch supporter. And anyhow, he drafted a bill. I got no clue if has a chance to pass. It might. I don't know. But Republicans that run Texas really hate the city that their capital's in. It's the most
Oh yeah.
liberal city in Texas. Keep Austin weird. It's the blue dot in the middle of Texas. Blue, Dallas, Austin, Houston.
Yep.
But they don't like that, and they can't control that. So they don't like that where the capital is a hippie central. So they are proposing a bill that would make Austin basically, you know how Washington, D.C. is its own little area that's not a part of Maryland? Like on a map, it should be in Maryland, but technically it's not in Maryland. And like
Yeah.
our government runs D.C. as its own special little district. His
Yeah.
proposal is to do that with Austin, where the state of Texas, the governor and the Congress and all that would control Austin, and there wouldn't be like a mayor of Austin or anything like that. Like they want to make Austin a special district controlled by the Texas government.
What?
Yes.
That makes no sense.
What's
Like
sad is,
I don't think Washington D.C. makes sense.
yeah,
I think Washington D.C. should be its own state or join Maryland, but yeah, that makes zero sense.
I'm warning you that without looking too far into it, I'd say there's at least a 30% chance it's going to
So
happen.
then where are they gonna move the capital to?
No, the capital stays there. Austin becomes, Austin is the capital, but it ceases to basically have its own representation.
Oh, interesting. So
So
that would keep Texas from turning more and more blue.
yeah. So no, it would just keep Austin from being blue. Like it would be Governor Abbott and his administration would basically be the mayor and city council of that area. So they could like in
But even
Austin, I
DC
believe.
has a mayor, right?
But I don't think they have a lot of power. Like the government kind of controls what goes on in DC. There is a mayor, but I don't think they have standard like mayor powers like other cities do. So like you know how weed got decriminalized in Austin? And it's like
Oh
if
yeah.
you have weed under 2 ounces, like they don't even
Yeah.
write. I don't even think they write you a ticket for it. But like little stuff like that, they could undo. So like all the special things that like Austin has kind of allowed for some more liberal shit to go down than the rest of Texas does, they
Hmm.
could undo all that easily.
Okay. I mean,
So
so they just want control Austin.
they want Austin to have less hippies. They want Austin to be like Fort Worth.
So they're just gonna try to kick the hippies out of Austin in
I
like
guess.
it just doesn't make any sense. I think Austin would probably go even more hippie and kind of like I feel like they would fight that pretty
I
hardcore.
think a
They'd be
lot of
like,
people
oh,
would move out of Austin.
I don't think so. I think
Yeah,
Austin's a pretty
I'm
like
just
people
saying.
there love Austin.
I'm just telling you what this guy's trying to do, and I just need to say that it's not 0%. Like it could
Yeah,
happen. So
could yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if it happens, I would like to see that happen. Actually, I would it would be an
yeah.
interesting experiment.
I what's funny is if they did it, if they successfully pulled like it's a power grab. I don't know what else to say, but so if they
Yeah,
successfully pulled off the power grab, I think you'd see other states with similar situations. And I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like a Republican state where because normally anywhere there's a big city center, that city center tends
yeah.
to be Democrat. That's the little blue
Georgia.
dot. So like Georgia with Atlanta, for example,
Yeah.
that'd be it'd be like I said, I think it'd be an interesting thing because like they would do it, there'd probably be lawsuits about it. It might go all the way to the Supreme Court, but like if it did and it went to the Supreme Court said, "Yep, they're allowed to do this." I think you'd start to see it happen where suddenly a lot of Republican states would have like special districts where like
But
that's the
Dallas is
capital.
blue too. I bet Houston's blue.
It is, but Austin's where all their representatives are and have to go to work. And I'm sure that a lot of those like staunch Republicans just parking and walking into the Capitol and having to deal with the shit they see on the side of the street in Austin, they probably fucking
Not
hate.
like it's horrible. It's just people, man. This
If
is
you're
my this is my whole issue with Republicans. They hate everybody that's not them.
I don't even want to I don't want to touch that.
They absolutely hate everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, look at the trans. They want to like roll back gay rights. Like they just hate everybody that's not them. They're a very
I
hateful group of people, and they're also like the highest level of Christians probably out of all the parties, and they have so much hate in their heart that it's just it's hard to like I don't know. It's hard to like those people. It's fucking yeah. I almost hate them for hating everybody else. Like
I
it's so
yeah.
stupid.
So here's the thing. I know a lot of Republicans don't hate everybody. So I don't. I think you're painting with a broad brush. Now there are some Republicans that are damn near KK or that are KKK members, but there's
Yeah.
also some Democrats who are fucking morons. And like I bet you wouldn't like it if I painted you in with some extreme left morons. The kind of people that go and throw paint on the Mona Lisa in protest
Sure.
of the environment.
But I'm not talking about I'm talking about mostly the like the trans and the gay stuff, I think. Like they really hate that. They hate
They
Muslims. I mean, they're outright hate Muslims. Most all of them, right?
yeah, like I said, I'm
I
uncomfortable.
think I
The
think
thing
there's
is,
a lot of racist vibes in that group, and they just kind of stay quiet on some of the stuff, but they'll go after new groups that pop up.
the thing is, I know a lot of like most of the people I know in my life are Republicans, and most of them are really good people. So that's my only thing is like not all of them are like that at all. Like there are some groups inside the Republican Party that are pretty terrible, but there are also some groups inside the Democratic Party that are pretty terrible that I would not want to be. I don't want to be associated with the extreme of either side, is what I'll
Well,
say. Real
right.
quick,
What was
um,
that one saying? It was like not all Trump supporters are racist, but all
oh,
racists are Trump supporters.
that's a true statement. I mean, that might upset some people, but you'll never
Yeah.
meet a real racist person that's also a Kamala supporter. Like
No,
that
absolutely
that doesn't
not.
exist. But again, like I said, I know several people that enthusiastically vote for Trump and are not bad people and they're not racist. Um, the what I'm toying with in my head here is like you're right on the gay trans stuff. Like I haven't met many Republicans that are like, yeah, I'm a Republican, but I don't care much about it. I don't have a problem with gays. Like that's not something you hear often. And
Right.
I had a discussion with a family member at Thanksgiving about this. Um, Big Trump voter, big RFK voter too. Was more of an RFK voter and then became a Trump voter because of RFK. But we were talking about gay marriage, and one of my cousins is gay and was at this event, and we were talking about it, and he was expressing his displeasure with Trump winning, and as soon as everybody cleared out, this person grabbed me and was like, "Hey, like I had to bite my tongue there, but like you know that Trump like is totally in favor of gay marriage, right?" And I was like, I don't know that. And she was like, well, they're not going to do anything with gay marriage. And I was like, oh no. I was like, I think it's likely that whatever that case is, Obergefell versus whatever, like the Supreme Court's probably going to overturn that and like send that back to the states. And about 26 states are going to outlaw gay marriage. Like that's probably going to happen. And this person was like, no, like they in disbelief. She's like, where are you getting this? And I was like, well, I mean,
Project
a
2025. It's
so
it's all over
first thing
it.
I said is I said, a it's all over Project 2025, and she goes she goes, "Oh, Trump has said he's not doing that. You know he's not doing that." And I was like, "Well, he got the four authors of it are all in his cabinet now." And total confusion and shock. What? What are you talking about? Where have you heard this? And I'm like, "That's the problem is the people on the other side don't hear what other people hear." But then
Right.
I had to kind of explain that, and then she stuck to her guns the whole time and was like, "No, like there's no way anything. And and she even at the end she said she goes, we'll revisit this in 4 years and we'll see who's right. Like she was so confident, and I'm like, if I had to put money on it, I would bet that gay marriage is going to get overturned at the federal level and it's going to be back to the states because that's what Trump said, it all back to the states. And if you're a married couple that lives in Minnesota and you want to go visit your family in Texas, that's a risky thing all of a sudden. What if one of you gets sick while you're in Texas and ends up in a
Yep.
hospital and then your marriage is not recognized and now you
Yep.
can't go visit your spouse in the hospital
Yep.
because, well, it's a whole
Yep.
thing.
Life support, all that stuff. You don't have any. Yeah.
That's scary, and I don't see, like, I thought we were kind of past the whole like gay marriage thing, like that was settled. But I
Yeah.
also
Oh,
I also
absolutely.
thought Roe versus Wade was settled, and there were a lot of Republicans that were like, he's not really gonna, and then he did. And
Yeah.
it's kind of hysterical that now with the gay marriage, there's a lot of Republicans who are like, oh, he's not gonna. They're saying they want to do it like that. I don't know what else to tell you. Like
Yeah.
there's this thing where if you ask people why they like Trump, they're like, because I like him because he's a straight shooter. He tells you what he thinks and he says what he's going to do, and I believe him. But then you bring up that, and they go, he doesn't really mean that. And it's like, well, it can't be both. Like,
Yeah.
does he say what he's going to do and he doesn't lie, or does he say a lot of shit that he doesn't really mean? Like, which one is it? And
Yeah.
I there's this fascinating thing with Trump where he's ambiguous about a lot of things to where he can be whatever you want him to be. If you want him
Yeah.
to be really strong in this but not really this, you can work it out in your head where you believe that he is exactly the candidate you want him to be. And a
Yeah.
wide variety of people can do that with him. And it's an awesome skill for him to have. Like it really is. There are people that supported him that they love the fact that he's pro gay marriage. And there are just as many people that supported him because they love the fact that he's probably going to do away with gay marriage. And like, you can't square that. Like, that's unsquareable in my head.
Oh, yeah. It's he's an interesting character, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm this 4 years is gonna be weird. I like it is interesting. Like, do we let him just burn it down, or do we like does America try and help him out?
I don't know, man. I'm
Like
rooting right now on the Senate. The Senate is where all my hopes and dreams are. Um,
the Senate.
the Senate has pretty much spoken up that they're not going to let him do the craziest shit. Um,
Okay.
and we just have to hope that they're being real with that. And it seems like so far they made it clear that Matt Gaetz isn't going to get confirmed, and Matt Gaetz ended up pulling himself out.
Yep.
It looks like what's his name, Pete Hegseth, the Fox News guy,
He's getting
there's a
out.
very strong chance, and even Trump today suggested. I don't know if you saw this. He's talking
Ron
about.
DeSantis.
He said maybe, which Ron DeSantis is qualified to do it. Honestly, like it's
Sure.
funny, but like Ron DeSantis was a former like Navy lawyer, I think, and he
Okay.
ran a state for however many years. So like
Yeah.
he would
He's
pass
qualified.
with like you could say I don't like Ron DeSantis, but he's totally qualified to run the VA or whatever
I
it
would
was that
much
Hegseth
rather
was
him
doing.
than Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that systematically this is like a one at a time thing. Like all of our attention's on Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is out of the way. Okay, who's next in line? Pete Hegseth. All of our attention on him, and if he gets replaced by whoever, it's
Yep.
going to go down the line. And Tulsi, I think
Tulsi's
Tulsi's
next.
Tulsi's the one that I worry about the most. Like I still think that RFK is going to get confirmed.
Yeah.
Um, Cash Patel as FBI director, I think it's going to be a fight. He might get in, but that's not going to go smoothly for them. But I
Okay.
think Tulsi's coming up soon. Like I think there's
They're
a
starting
strong
to come
chance.
out with a lot of stuff about her past because she grew up in like a really weird religious
Yeah.
like cult and
Well, and her
yeah.
ties to Russia, and that's where I'm like, hey, she's that guy we were talking about earlier, Assad, who's the leader of Syria. Like she was the first, like they called her an Assad apologist. But she basically was like, hey guys, Assad's the good guy here. Like I can't believe we're not on his side. And it's like, you mean the dictator that's gassing his own people? Like that's the guy. And I
But she keeps saying she's anti-war.
Well, she thinks that we're responsible for the war in Syria.
Okay.
Just like her and Rogan and everybody else think that we're also responsible for the war in Ukraine. The bottom line is all these former Soviet bloc countries want to join the West. It would be better for them economically. They don't want to be living under Putin's rule anymore. And even though they're in a country that's not Russia, they're still living under Putin's rule. They're part of the Soviet area, and they don't want to be. And it's like, is that our fault? Is it the West, us, Europe, whoever else? Is it our fault that we're pretty fucking awesome and everybody wants to join the European Union or NATO? Like, no, if I was in
What?
Georgia, and the people of Georgia, all they want is to join the European Union, and their leader that just got reelected in a sham election, he immediately, because they had voted to join the European Union, and as soon as he won, he came out and he said, "Hey, he said we're still going to do it. We're putting it on the back burner for 4 years. In 4 years, we'll revisit this." And that's part of what kicked off all these riots. And there are people
Uh,
like, no, they want to join the European Union. Screw Putin. Like they don't like get him out of our lives. Like,
yeah,
is that our fault?
no,
No, not ours. That's, and Ukraine. Ukraine wants to be a part of NATO. Wants to be a part of the United
yeah. We should
Nations.
let Ukraine in. We should
Yeah,
have
or,
let
sorry,
Ukraine in.
the European Union is what I meant. And that's
But if we
that's
let
what
them in
started.
now, then we have to go to war with Russia.
Well,
That's
that's
the
what started
problem.
this whole war. And Republicans tell this wrong all the time, but Ukraine wanted to join NATO, and we told them not now, maybe later, but not now. And when you hear Republicans talk, they act like we were recruiting them. We were trying to get them to join NATO. And it's like, no, they were begging, and we told them, sorry, you can't do it right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got
Yep.
to cut it off. We're about to run out of time, sir.
Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
good chatting with you, man.
Hey, do some homework on Cash Patel. I really want to dig into that guy. Let's talk about him and the whole FBI nomination next time.
All right. Yeah.
Uh,
He just got nominated today or
like in the last
yesterday.
2 or 3 days. The thing is, the current FBI director is supposed to be non-political and serve a 10-year term. And Trump fired Comey and replaced him with this guy. And now he hates this guy. And he says this guy is deep state, which Trump put him here. But now he wants to fire this guy, which the president's not supposed to fire the FBI director, but Trump's going to do it twice. So,
Yeah. So
anyhow,
stupid.
yeah.
All right. Call me back so we get the photos.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Later.
Bye.